Hi, my name is Rick Bloodworth, and today is day 30 of the 90-day study through the New Testament. We're going to be reading the last 3 chapters of John, and by doing so today, we will have read all 4 of the Gospels. In fact, we will have studied through all 4 of the Gospels. And maybe this is the first time you've ever done that. Maybe you've had some thoughts and some opinions about what Jesus did while he was here on earth and what he said while he was here on earth and taught. But now you've just really sat down and dug into it and have studied that. And it's probably changed your view of Jesus and your understanding as well of his ministry. You've read of his birth, of his ministry, of his teachings, of his death and his resurrection now 4 times. And you've not only read it, but you've studied it. And you've written down passages that were meaningful to you, that you were trying to find out more about. And so it's something that now you have an overview of Christ's ministry that perhaps you've never had before. Now, let me say this. If you haven't been doing this study, I would encourage you to do that. Get you out a notebook and start over again. Start with Matthew and just start going through. You can always go back and see the daily readings on our YouTube channel. It's just the 30-Day Bible Challenge YouTube channel, or you can go to our Facebook page, 30-Day Challenge Facebook page, or you can go to our websites. We have a Common Sense Christian website and a 30-Day Bible Challenge website, and you can just go to those and you can see the daily schedules for studying through the New Testament, as well as some other things as well. But again, if you haven't been studying through that, or if maybe you're just now starting to look at these videos, let me encourage you to go back and to start studying, because this study is so important to your life. And I don't mean the study from a perspective of things that I might have to say to go along with the study, but I mean what you're going to read and what you'll learn through that. Now, if you've been doing that, you already know that. You've seen things and have read things that perhaps will be life-changing to you. And so let me encourage you to continue your study through the New Testament, because the rest of the New Testament is going to be a fulfillment to Christ's command. Remember in Matthew 28, after he had told his disciples to go into all the world and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, he said, and to teach them everything I've commanded you. And that's what the New Testament is. It's everything that Christ commanded. It's the only place we can be sure that we're getting Christ's teaching. So let me encourage you, if you haven't already begun to study, start today. But if you have been, then keep on going. You're a third of the way through, and you're really going to be seeing some things and learning some things in the next 60 days that perhaps will change your life. I know it will if you've not been through it before. Now, for today, the setting is in John chapter 21. Jesus appears to his disciples for a 3rd time, or at least a portion of them. The apostles who are fishermen are out back fishing. They've been up all night and they haven't caught a thing. And there Jesus is on the shore, and he calls out to them from the shore and starts talking to them and finds out they haven't caught any fish. And so he tells them, well, cast your net over on this side of the boat. And when they do, they pull in a haul that is so large that they're afraid of the nets breaking. But it was 153 fish is what they later found out. An incredible haul, a great day for the fishermen. But it was at this point that John said to Peter, "It's the Lord." And so Peter he puts on his outer garment and he jumps in the water and he goes to shore, and the rest of the apostles follow in the boat. And Jesus has some fish already prepared. He's been broiling some fish over a fire, and he serves it to them. Now, if you'll recall the events, the recent events, especially concerning Peter, then you'll remember that Peter was told before Jesus was arrested by Jesus that Peter would deny him 3 times. And Peter said, "I would never do that." But in fact, he did deny Jesus 3 times. And then when the rooster crowed, as Jesus had told him, "You'll deny me 3 times before the rooster crows," when Peter heard the rooster crowing, he went outside and wept bitterly. And it was after that that Jesus was turned over to the Romans and was crucified. Well, Now Peter has another chance. He's sitting before Jesus, and Jesus said to Peter, "Do you love me more than these?" Now, what was these in that question? Was it the fish that they had just hauled in? Because to fishermen it would represent at least a certain amount of wealth for a few days. Was it the lifestyle that they had? Anybody that's ever worked outside knows that while the work is hard, it's also incredibly exhilarating, and it's very satisfying to work outside, to be in the fresh air, to do things with your hands. And so maybe Jesus was asking Peter, do you love me more than this lifestyle? We don't know exactly what he was asking him, but Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, you know I love you." And so Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Well, Jesus a second time came back and said, "Peter, do you love me?" Well, Peter said, "Lord, you know I love you." And Jesus said, "Tend to my sheep." Well, Jesus came back a third time and he said, "Peter, do you love me?" And it hurt Peter's feelings. And Peter said, "Lord, you know all things. You know I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Now, why three times? Why did Jesus come back to Peter three times and ask him, "Do you love me?" And we really can't know. Only Jesus knows why he did that. But you can see the benefit of that from Peter's perspective, because Peter, who had denied Jesus three times, now has the opportunity to reaffirm his love for Jesus. And he's also receiving instruction, a little bit different each time. Feed my lambs, tend to my sheep, feed my sheep. I don't know if there is something significant about that or not, but I do know that Jesus was certainly letting Peter know that he had a responsibility, that he was going to have a ministry now, and that ministry was going to involve taking care of people. And certainly Peter became one of the most powerful ministers that the world has ever known. He was faithful to that. And if you recall, and as you'll see in tomorrow's study in Acts chapter 2, you'll see that it's Peter who gets up and preaches the first recorded gospel sermon after the death of Christ. And so Peter was going to have an important role. But isn't it interesting that Jesus permitted Peter this time to reaffirm his love for him, and that Jesus took the time also to let Peter know this is what you need to be doing? Well, think about that for us. Do we love Jesus? And if we do love Jesus, then what does that mean for us? What kind of responsibility do we have? You see, as we're reading through the Word and as we're studying through the Word, not only are we finding out what we need to do, but it's something that we need to be able to pass along to other people. We can't keep it to ourselves. The good news is something that needs to be shared with other people. And so the question is, do we love Jesus enough to pass the gospel along, to feed his sheep, if you want to put it that way? And only we can answer that question. And it may be insulting to us to be asked, do we love Jesus? But the fact is, we really have to understand what that means. Peter needed to understand that by loving Jesus, it meant that he was going to have to do something. And I believe we need to understand the same thing. Now, I'll also say this. The Christian life is a wonderful life. As we read through and we do these studies, we find out that it really is the very best way to live. And as you start applying these principles and these commands to your life, you're going to find that your life is enhanced in ways that maybe you never would have even dreamed about. The blessings that come from serving God in his ways are innumerable, and they really do make for a joyful and a peaceful life as well. So, do you love Jesus? And if you do, will you feed his sheep? Well, that's the study for today. I hope that you will enjoy it as you go through it, and hope we'll see you tomorrow.